Hi, welcome to Parents of India. I am Piyush. Parents of India is a unique podcast series where we invite parents from various walks of life to discuss their successes, fears, joys, high points, low points, and expectations in their parenting journey. It serves as a platform to amplify the voices of every parent in the country, and it aims to build an ecosystem of parent leaders who inspire other parents to navigate parenthood with ease, happiness, and curiosity. आज हम शुरुआत कर रहे हैं अपने पॉडकास्ट सीरीज की एक मॉमप्रेन्योर के साथ जिनकी 4 साल की एक क्यूट सी बेटी है, कनिका बंसल.
हाय.
वेलकम कनिका.
थैंक यू पीयूष.
सो कनिका, आप कहाँ से आए हैं?
मैं दिल्ली से वैसे ओरिजिनली, एंड मैं यहीं पे बॉर्न एंड ब्रॉट अप हूँ, बट मैंने अपनी एंटरप्रेन्योर जर्नी हैदराबाद में शुरू करी. एंड जो मेरा बैकग्राउंड है, आई एम एन इंजीनियर with mechanical and automation engineering as a first degree. Then I went to UK and I studied there. I did my masters and everything else, like a fellowship and all of those over there.
So कनिका, आप अपनी एक मेडटेक कंपनी भी चलाते हैं ना हैदराबाद में?
जी.
उसका नाम क्या है?
यंत्रम मेडटेक.
ओके, और ये चाइल्ड केयर से रिलेटेड है?
या एक्चुअली हम लोग डायग्नोस्टिक प्रोडक्ट्स बना रहे हैं उसमें, डायग्नोस्टिक एंड स्क्रीनिंग प्रोडक्ट्स. एंड हमारा जो फर्स्ट प्रोडक्ट है वो बच्चों के लिए है. एंड उसका जो इंस्पिरेशन था, यू कैन से, वो मेरे अपनी खुद की कहानी से आया था. सो हम लोग थोड़ा बच्चों पे ज़्यादा फोकस कर रहे हैं इस वक्त.
ओके, ठीक है. इसके बारे में भी मैं आपसे आगे बात करूँगा. पर सबसे पहले मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूँगा, आपकी 4 साल की एक बेटी है, तो हाउ डज लाइक पेरेंटिंग फील टू यू? कैसा लगता है एक पेरेंट होना आपको?
I think it has its own, ups and downs. So कभी कभी it's very hectic. But hectic इसलिए नहीं है कि it's a lot of work or anything like that. I think it's just hectic sometimes because you have to manage the time with your child and also your work. And being an entrepreneur is a 24/7 journey. We don't get any offs, and there are no Sundays, no holidays for us in a way. Although everybody who works for us thinks like that, कि मुझे बहुत मजे आ रहे होंगे, but in reality वो नहीं होता. So because of that, sometimes it's little hectic, and I think it is a really wonderful, a journey, wonderful feeling, I would say, as a parent, what I get. Yeah.
So as a parent, like आपको like 4.5 years हो गए almost being a mother, तो आपके लिए like ऐसे क्या चीज़ें रहेगी? What are the good points which you can share with our audience, suggesting like it is a good point of being a parent, or something you have learned which you might not have learned earlier, or not being a parent?
So I think first thing is it's a beautiful feeling because as an entrepreneur it's a very hectic and very stressful journey. And when you come back home, you have a child waiting who hugs you, who's very excited to see you. So that is something is something which you look forward to. Even if you have a bad day, you look forward to that because that gives you some happiness. And when you meet your child in the evening, that just takes away all your stress. So it is like a stress buster, you can say. The things I learned is a tremendously lot of things because see, it's not just the age of the child, it is also the age of the parent. Okay? So even if my daughter is 4.5, even I am as a parent just 4.5 years old, you can say. So I also learn a lot of things from her. There's so many things, small actions you would do unknowingly or subconsciously. But since the child keeps noticing you from each and every small tick you do, anything the way you say things, and then they mimic you, that sometimes makes you realize that, Arey, this is what something I am doing, okay. And that's like a feedback you're getting by seeing yourself in a mirror.
Oh yes.
So it's like a walking, talking mirror in front of you, where you see how you behave or how you're perceived by people. And then as a feedback, I have also changed so many times, so many things about me. Certain small things, certain small words, the way I'll say. I noticed those things only when my daughter started saying that to me. Like for example, I had a habit of saying like "Arey yaar," like a lot in my sentences, and I didn't realize it.
Correct.
But then my daughter also started saying "Arey yaar" in everything she'll say. That then I realized, अरे ये इतना अरे यार क्यों बोल रही है? So that यार word, now I'm using it with a lot of focus. Like I should be using it, knowingly. Like when I want to use it really.
Correct.
So those are the small things. I would say, so like, there are so many such examples.
Oh, cool. Thank you. And जैसे आपने बताया कि how it is a beautiful feeling you return back to the home after work and meeting your daughter. But in the same journey, what challenges you have seen so far being a mompreneur? एक चीज़ आपने ऑलरेडी बताया कि वर्क शेड्यूल काफ़ी हेक्टिक रहता है और उसको मैनेज करना एक चैलेंज रहता है. इसके अलावा कोई चैलेंजेस जो आपने अनुभव किए हैं, मे बी इन टर्म्स ऑफ हेल्थ, फैमिली और सोशल लाइफ और एनीथिंग एल्स?
So I think from a mompreneur's perspective, I would say guilt feeling I think एक रहता है, but I don't think it is just for an entrepreneur mom. It is I think for any mom in any area. I would say even if they are 9 to 6 working mom, I think they also feel equally guilty. So that is I think one thing as a challenge. Apart from that, I think I've been blessed, I would say, because I'm an entrepreneur. So I have a flexibility to work at different hours. So I know that I have to do certain tasks and they should be finished. But the tasks where my presence is required along with other team members, only that's a time which I cannot shift a lot. But apart from that, my own tasks I can always shift once my daughter sleeps, for example. So I can work late night and finish it off, or I can start a little early. So before she wakes up, I can wake up and finish my task. So that kind of freedom I have got, so which allows me to actually participate in a lot of things. So for example, when she was in a daycare, there were some events where they invited all the parents to come.
Yeah.
So I could easily go because I could adjust my schedule. One challenge would be there is that as an entrepreneur हमारा schedule बहुत fix नहीं होता. Sometimes certain meetings comes very suddenly, which is not pre-planned one. But it's like for example I'm chasing somebody to give me some time, and then suddenly they'll say अच्छा अभी आ जाओ आधे घंटे में. Then you have to just rush, leaving everything behind. You cannot just say अरे I have some other things and I cannot come. Then I have to manage something, so it happened with me once, like I had to pick up my daughter from the daycare, and one doctor called me and said like, okay, you want to come, just meet me right now. And the place was like half an hour away and half an hour to come back, so that's like 1 hour already, and in 1 hour I had to pick my daughter, so I wouldn't have time to talk to the person.
Correct.
And if I say that no, I cannot come, and actually I said that also once.
Okay.
So that did not go very well. So as an entrepreneur, people feel like I'm giving you time, so you should respect my time, and that's the kind of mindset, because it's a different mindset, like they are doing a favor on me basically.
Right.
So in those things, those are some challenges which you face at times, but then you can also solve them, if you have infrastructure around you.
Correct. But when you started, like you just said that there was some guilt. What guilt you are talking about here?
So the guilt of not spending enough time with the child, or you feel like I'm not there a lot more than I want to be.
Okay.
So for example, I want to be there 24 hours with my child, frankly, but obviously that's not possible. You have to work. So I think that's the kind of a guilt you always feel, and no matter how much time you give to the child, you always keep feeling that it's not enough, you should give more and more. So I think that's the major guilt part I'm talking about.
Got it. एंड आपने इसमें ये चीज़ भी बोली थी कि आप एंटरप्रेन्योर है और अगर आप वर्किंग भी होते तो मे बी ये गिल्ट रहती.
Yes.
तो पर मैं ये जानना चाहूँगा कि लेट्स से आप होम मेकर होते और आप मोमप्रेन्योर नहीं होते, तो क्या आपके चैलेंजेस या जो आपके जॉयज़ है वो क्या डिफरेंट रहते आपके हिसाब से, या आपने कभी किसी से बात की हो, मे बी आपकी मॉम, अगर आपकी मॉम होम मेकर है तो?
Yeah, my mom is a homemaker, and in fact some of my friends are also homemaker. I think homemakers को ये जो time वाला guilt factor है वो तो definitely नहीं होता है, because I've never heard any homemaker mom saying अरे I feel like I'm not spending enough time with my child.
Okay.
But yeah, I've heard the same guilt with my friends who have a proper like a company job, IT jobs, 9 to 6 type of jobs, very fixed working schedules. So I have friends who are teachers, I have friends who are in IT side, who are managers, and all of them have the same type of guilt feeling, which is not there with the homemakers, I would say. At least I did not experience it, so that's just my opinion. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you have answered my question. Thank you for that. Okay, तो एज अ पेरेंट लाइक मुझे लगता है कि मेरे पास एक विजन होना चाहिए अपने बच्चे के लिए कि मैं उसके उसके साथ उसको किस तरीके से मैं रेस करना चाहता हूँ. सिमिलरली क्या आपने आपने कोई विजन सेट किया है अपनी बेटी के लिए?
Yeah, you can say so. It's not मतलब मैं ऐसे इसको बहुत hardcore vision नहीं बोलूँगी because I'm an entrepreneur, so we also hear a lot about vision of the company and short term goals, long term goals. So nothing like that. But my vision or my hope, you can say, was more like I want to raise my daughter to be a very independent person, so that when she grows up, she can make her own choices, and she should be able to gauge the choice in a more educated way, you can say. So she should be able to weigh the pros and cons and then make her own decisions. So that's a major goal for me. And I don't want her to go into very mainstream things where other people worry about ये सीखना है ये आना चाहिए. I want her to have more freedom and enjoy the life.
Got it. तो दो क्वेश्चन मेरे पास आते हैं, आपने जैसे रिस्पॉन्स दिया. एक तो ये जो माइंडसेट है कि मैं मेन स्ट्रीम से इम्पैक्ट नहीं हो रही हूँ, तो ये पहली बात कैसे आया या आप कैसे कोप अप करते हैं मेन स्ट्रीम प्रेशर से अपने आप को एज अ पेरेंट. और दूसरी चीज़ जो आपने बोला मेरे पास एक गोल है इंडिपेंडेंस वाला, ये चीज़ आप कैसे प्रैक्टिस करते हैं अपने पेरेंट?
सो जो माइंडसेट है वो मेरी अपनी ऑब्जर्वेशन से आया, बिकॉज एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर आई थिंक बिकॉज आई मेंशन दैट आई आल्सो वर्कड लाइक स्टेड अब्रॉड. सो वो भी बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट मतलब पार्ट है मेरी इस थिंकिंग का. जब हम इंडिया से बाहर गए, so we saw so many people from different cultures, सारे people like who are my age, people who are younger to us, who are older than us, and उन सब में I noticed that जो उनका thinking style है, it's very different from our style. Although we as Indians, we pride ourselves a lot on the mathematical skills, and I was very shocked to actually see that a lot of Europeans also have very good mathematical skills like us. Unlike Americans take a lot of time, but not everybody. If Americans are very well educated, their maths is also pretty good.
Okay.
But yeah, if I talk about some very small things like counting skills, Europeans are pretty good. Unlike the so I could see that our mindset about that part is not totally correct. But yes, we are definitely better in the mathematics side. But then I realized that those people, everybody has very very strong basics. Okay, so the basics being strong was a key for them to excel in whatever they do. They enjoy doing what they do. They do really well, way better than how a person who has done only just rote learning would do. And then also as an entrepreneur, when I'm trying to hire people, I find this as a very big problem, क्योंकि लोगों के पास डिग्री होता है ओके, लेकिन उनको आता नहीं है. सो अगर मैं एक मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर पकड़ूँ, अगर आप एक मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर के टॉप भी आप उठा लीजिए, मेजॉरिटी कॉलेजेस की बात करें, नॉट इवन द आई मीन आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट IITs एंड ऑल, मे बी वहाँ पे अलग सिस्टम होता होगा, आई एम नॉट श्योर. ओके, बट इफ आई टॉक अबाउट जस्ट वेरी जेनरिक कॉलेजेस, मेजॉरिटी लोगों को बहुत बेसिक मैथमेटिकल कैलकुलेशंस करनी नहीं आएंगी डिस्पाइट बीइंग एन मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर. सो इफ आई आस्क हिम कि अच्छा आप एक गियर का कैलकुलेशन करके दिखा सकते हो मुझे, सिर्फ कंसेप्ट वाइज, दे डोंट नीड टू डू द कैलकुलेशन एज पर से, बिकॉज उसके लिए कैलकुलेटर्स रहते हैं ऑनलाइन वाले. बट इफ आई जस्ट आस्क हिम द कंसेप्ट ऑल्सो, दे विल नॉट बी एबल टू टेल मी. Or if
so how it is not related to means, or how the thing in America what you have observed or in UK is not mainstream if they know the concepts well?
Because इंडिया में हम लोग मेन स्ट्रीम मतलब इसलिए क्योंकि मैंने जब भी इंडिया में सुना है, लोग फोकस नहीं करते कंसेप्ट्स के ऊपर. इवन प्रोफेसर्स डोंट डू दैट. हमारे प्रोफेसर्स फॉर एग्जांपल हमारे कॉलेज में दे वर मोर लाइक अरे ये किताब पढ़ लो, इसमें से ही आएगा पेपर आपका, आपको बस ये रटा होना चाहिए कि ये वाली इक्वेशन कैसे हुई. पर आप अगर उनसे क्वेश्चन करो कि सर ये इक्वेशन कैसे आए, और अगर मैं इसको इस तरह से ना करके किसी और तरीके से करूँ, तब क्या फ़र्क पड़ेगा, क्योंकि आंसर तो आपका सेम आ गया, बट एक ही चीज़ को करने के 4-5 तरीके हो सकते हैं, राइट. सो जो मैंने यहाँ पे देखा उसको एंकरेज नहीं किया जाता.
पर जैसे कि अभी आपकी बेटी 4.5 years है, तो इसमें मेन स्ट्रीम आपको क्या नहीं दिख रहा, क्या दिखता है क्या नहीं दिखता जब आप उसकी लर्निंग की बात करते हैं या उसकी एजुकेशन की बात?
सो मेन स्ट्रीम मतलब कि जो रोड लर्निंग हो गई है सेम वे. सो जो कंसेप्ट है मेन स्ट्रीम का वो रोड लर्निंग वाला है, जो इंडिया में ज़्यादा फोकस करते हैं लोग, बिकॉज इंडिया में मार्क्स पे उस पर ज़्यादा फोकस रहता है. सो मेरा जो मतलब द रीज़न आई सेड दिस थिंग वाज कि मेन स्ट्रीम जैसे हो गया कि फॉर एग्जांपल अरे इसको अभी तक काउंटिंग नहीं आता, या इसको ऐसा प्लस करना आना चाहिए, या ऐसा आना चाहिए, मल्टीप्लिकेशन टेबल सिखा देंगे बच्चों को, लेकिन उनको अभी तक मल्टीप्लिकेशन का वो कंसेप्ट नहीं पता होगा कि वाई और हाउ आई एम डूइंग अ मल्टीप्लिकेशन, व्हाट इज डिवीजन एग्जैक्टली, वो एक रियल लाइफ में प्रैक्टिकली क्या करता है डिवीजन, या मल्टीप्लिकेशन का प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट क्या है, क्यों मैं रट रही हूँ एक टेबल 2 1 2 2 2 4, ये सब मैं क्यों रट रही हूँ, तो वो सब का क्या फायदा है, वो समझ नहीं आता. सो अभी भी अगर आप किसी भी बच्चे को पिक करते हो जो 5th क्लास 5 साल का 6 साल का बच्चा है 7 साल का बच्चा है, उसको टेबल्स आते होंगे अच्छे से, लेकिन उसको अगर आप पूछो कंसेप्ट क्या है, बहुत सारे बच्चों को नहीं आता होगा. और मैं ये नहीं कहूँगी कि सभी ऐसे, ऑब्वियसली ऐसा नहीं है, बहुत पेरेंट्स बहुत अलग स्टाइल से भी पढ़ाते हैं, बहुत सारे स्कूल्स भी है जो अलग स्टाइल से पढ़ाते हैं, तो कंसेप्ट हो सकते हैं बहुत बच्चों को.
तो आप डिफरेंटली क्या कर रहे हैं अपनी डॉटर के साथ जो कि ये रोट लर्निंग की तरफ वो नहीं जा रही है?
पहले तो मैं इसको बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस पूछने देती हूँ. बहुत सारे लोग मेरे अलावा, मतलब फनी थिंग इज वो क्वेश्चन मुझसे पूछती है, लेकिन मेरे आसपास के लोग बहुत इरिटेट हो जाते हैं. सो इतने क्वेश्चंस पूछती है, सो दे ट्राई टू डिमीन अ चाइल्ड बाय सेइंग अरे कितने क्वेश्चंस पूछती है, और फिर हंसते हैं. तो एक बच्चा उसमें डर जाता है, सहम जाता है कई बार. और मैंने सिर्फ मेरे बच्चे के साथ नहीं, मैंने इवन मेरे नेबर्स में भी उनका बच्चा है, तो जैसे अगर वो भी बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन पूछते तो उसके पेरेंट्स ही आके मुझे उसको डांटने लगते हैं, अरे इतने क्वेश्चन मत पूछो, आंटी थोड़ा उनको परेशान मत करो, ऐसा. सो आई एनकरेज किड्स टू आस्क क्वेश्चंस, एज मेनी क्वेश्चन एज दे कैन, एंड इट एज अ पेरेंट वी शुड बी पेशेंट इनफ एंड आंसर देम इन अ नाइस और सिंपल वे. कभी कभी बच्चे बहुत डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन भी पूछते हैं विच इज लॉजिकल, लेकिन इट्स जस्ट दैट उसका आंसर अभी आप उसको समझाओगे तो शायद समझ नहीं आएगा. तो उन क्वेश्चंस का मैं थोड़ा ब्रेक डाउन करके उसको एक सिंपल फॉर्म में बताती हूँ, एंड मैं बोलूँगी कि ओके बेटा जब आप और बड़े होगे ना तो मैं और डिटेल में समझा सकती हूँ. तो क्योंकि आई नो दैट बच्चे का वो ग्रास्पिंग पावर नहीं है अभी, इसीलिए. लेकिन आई एनकरेज हर फर्स्ट टू आस्क लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस. सेकेंडली मैं उसके पीछे नहीं पड़ती ABCD और 1 2 3 सीखो. इट्स लाइक गेम्स कर रही है, उसमें अपने आप सीख गई, या हम थोड़ा पोएम्स गाएंगे उसमें सीख लिया तो दैट्स ग्रेट. अदरवाइज आई डोंट मेक हर सिट डाउन एंड से अच्छा अभी तुम बैठ के राइटिंग का प्रैक्टिस करो, अभी बैठ के इसका प्रैक्टिस करो, वो सब नहीं करती. But it's just because I feel like she should enjoy her childhood, and that allows her to be more creative. So I've seen her being a very creative child from that perspective now. So I think that's the main thing.
करेक्ट. मुझे भी ऐसा ही लगता है, लाइक बच्चे को फ्री छोड़ देना चाहिए एटलीस्ट फॉर फर्स्ट 5 years. बच्चे की क्रिएटिविटी पे काम हो, इमेजिनेशन. बच्चा खुद ही इतना क्रिएटिव, इमेजिनेटिव और एक्सप्लोरर होता है कि उसकी बहुत सारी लर्निंग ऑटोमेटिकली हो जाती है, और जैसे ही वो स्कूल सिस्टम में एंटर करता है तो उनको उससे अडेप्ट कर जाता है और इम्प्लीमेंट भी कर पाता है उन लर्निंग्स को.
वैसे इवन अगर आप देखेंगे हमारे एंशियंट सिस्टम्स में भी ऐसे ही था वो डिजाइंड, कि हमारे एंशियंट टाइम्स में जो गुरुकुल का कंसेप्ट बोलते थे वो तभी शुरू होता था जब बच्चा 5 साल का होता था. उससे पहले बच्चा घर पे रहता था और सिर्फ एंजॉय करता था. उस टाइम भी बच्चे या उसके पेरेंट्स फोकस नहीं करते थे कि बच्चे को सिखाना है कुछ, वो करते थे कि गुरुकुल जाएगा वहीं पे सीख लेगा. तो गुरुकुल जाते ही बच्चा सीखता था. बट उससे पहले जो भी वो सीखता था अपने माता पिता से, वही उसकी मेन लर्निंग रहती थी. लेकिन बट ऐसा नहीं है कि एक फॉर्मल जो एजुकेशन है ना वो उसी एज से स्टार्ट होती थी.
और जैसे भी आपने कहा था कि आप आपके पास एक गोल है अपने बच्चे के लिए कि वो इंडिपेंडेंट बने, तो आप इसके लिए मतलब क्या करते हैं कि इसके अंदर आप अपनी बेटी के अंदर वो माइंडसेट बिल्ड कर सके, आप वो स्किल्स बिल्ड कर सके जिससे कि वो इंडिपेंडेंट रहे, या आपने अभी शुरुआत नहीं की है इस चीज़ की?
मैं इसको इंडिपेंडेंट इस तरह से बोलती हूँ कि आप कोई भी डिसीजन लेते हैं तो उसको पूछती हूँ मैं, अच्छा डू यू वांट टू डू दिस और डू यू वांट टू डू दैट, एंड सी अगर आप ये करोगे तो उसमें ये होगा आपको, अगर वो करोगे तो उसमें ये चीज़ें होंगी. सो विच वन डू यू वांट टू चूज. सो एक तो मैं उसको वो एनकरेज करती हूँ कि शी कैन डिसाइड ऑन हर ओन. सो वी स्टार्ट विद सम, आई स्टार्ट विद सम वेरी स्मॉल थिंग्स लाइक क्या खाने का मन है, ऐसा. सो उनको ये खाना है या वो खाना है तो बताओ. तो इट्स लाइक सिंपल चॉइसेस. जब आप देते हो अपने बच्चे को तो आई थिंक दे मस्ट बी फीलिंग लिटिल बिट मोर लाइक आई एम इंडिपेंडेंट, आई कैन डू ऑन माई ओन. जैसे टॉयज उसके अगर बिक रहे हैं तो उसी को बताते हैं कि चलो उसको हम दोनों मिलकर साफ करेंगे, या फिर आप करो उसको साफ, ऐसा करना चाहिए नहीं तो घर गंदा लगेगा. सो आई ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन द रीजंस कि अगर मैं उसको कुछ कह रही हूँ करने के लिए वो क्यों कह रही हूँ. सो दैट विल बी कंसिडर्ड एज अ लेक्चर आल्सो फ्रॉम अ चाइल्ड्स पर्सपेक्टिव परहैप्स. बट या दैट्स व्हाट आई एम डूइंग राइट नाउ.
I think yes, choice is a very powerful medium to build the decision making in kids and build accountability in them for their own decisions. So yes, एक चीज़ मैं और आपसे ये पूछना चाहूँगा, जैसे कि अभी आप ये सब खुद कर रहे हैं कि आप इंडिपेंडेंस बिल्ड कर रहे हैं या कुछ, बट आपके अराउंड आपने कोई सपोर्ट स्ट्रक्चर्स आपने कोई सपोर्ट स्ट्रक्चर्स को रीच आउट किया है जिसमें आपको हेल्प मिल सके अपने पेरेंटिंग गोल्स की तरफ आगे बढ़ने के लिए?
Uh, so नहीं, I mean the infrastructure which I'm talking about is basically the parents जो बच्चे को रख सकते हैं या उसका डे केयर. you know Earlier I used to have a nanny also to help out with household things.
Okay.
So that was like the major support infrastructure. I followed doctor's advice quite a lot as well. Like for example, 2 years back, I would not give my child any screen time at all. It was like zero screen time. And उस 2 years में तो मतलब बहुत time हमारा COVID में भी गया है.
Oh, wow.
Despite being locked down and inside the house, we controlled and
Must be very challenging.
did not give screen at all to the child.
Which is great. Like, how did you manage that? I would like to learn those tips.
I think firstly हम खुद ही टीवी नहीं देखते थे. Although I'm a movie buff, I have a big I can do a lot of binge watching. But उन 2 years में we control ourselves the most. क्योंकि अगर घर में कोई टीवी देखता ही नहीं तो बच्चे को पता ही नहीं था कि टीवी जैसी कोई चीज़ भी है. So she had no idea. Secondly, उसके लिए अगर कुछ भी rhymes है कुछ भी है तो I will play it on a phone और on a Google Play या उस पे where वो आपका साउंड आता है. So the child learned the sounds a lot. And जैसे अगर मेरे पेरेंट्स कभी कॉल करते हैं उनको वीडियो कॉल पे है तो I will not show her the screen at all. But she will listen to their sounds, listen to their voices. So after a point it became like she could recognize them through the voices. But faces वैसे ही पता है क्योंकि फोटो दिखाएंगे वो सब है उसके पास. Okay, so she knows who is whom. And they've met them also. She's met them also, like my mom, my in-laws, everybody. So she knows कि कौन है. But yeah, recognition voice से ज़्यादा था. So I think that's the first thing we did. That made it easy. Then उसके अलावा since हम खुद टीवी देखते ही तो बच्चा कभी डिमांड ही नहीं करता था टीवी का. And अगर उसको entertain करना है, I will bring her books. So I myself will read books. So she'll also be like okay, and I'll read stories to her. So she enjoyed books quite a lot. So although she cannot read right now,
but how she used to spend her time, जैसे कि आपने बताया आपका शेड्यूल बड़ा हेक्टिक होता है, आप शायद इवनिंग में ही मिल पाते हैं, रात को ही मिल पाते हैं.
बट कोविड में तो वर्क फ्रॉम होम था ना.
अच्छा, पर आप फिर लैपटॉप पर जैसे काम कर रहे होंगे तो बच्चे को दिख रहा है, वो स्क्रीन ही है.
या बट वो नहीं आती थी. सो आई विल लेट हर प्ले हर ओन गेम्स. सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल उसको बर्तन से खेलना बहुत पसंद था. सो मैं उसको बहुत सारे बर्तन दे दूंगी, बर्तन की बास्केट दे दूंगी. सो अपने उसमें बैठेगी, अपने कुछ गेम्स बनाएगी. बीच में वील टेक ब्रेक्स. सो मी एंड माई हस्बैंड वी विल मैनेज आवर शेड्यूल इन दैट वे कि बीच में कोई एक तो ब्रेक लेकर उस टाइम उसका खेल रहा है. सो बारी बारी वील बोथ प्ले विद हर. And after some time she'll sleep. So in the afternoon we'll make her sleep. So when she sleeps, that's a solid 2-3 hours for us to work really quickly. Yeah. And then बहुत छोटे बच्चे होते तो they take naps in the afternoon. They take some naps and they sleep also a little early in the evening. Then I would normally before COVID I would normally take her for a walk. उसको साइकिल पे बहुत देर घुमाऊंगी. So what I'll do, I also started doing a lot of my work through phone, where I would not sit on the screen, but I would just call people in my team and I'll tell them okay, you tell me what are the issues you're facing या क्या हो रहा है, and I'll give them the instructions. This is how you should do. And they will read out things to me कि अच्छा हाँ ये document ऐसे ऐसे है. So I will listen to the document and then give the suggestions. And तब तक मैं उसको साइकिल पे घुमा रही हूँ. So that way she will.
So आपने screen time कब तक start नहीं किया?
Till she was 2 years.
Okay, after
so 2 years, 3-4 months you can say. Till that we did not show any screen time. Then उसके बाद she learned about YouTube and ऐसे videos आता है कुछ.
How come?
Because उसके बाद TV on किया ना हमने.
Oh, okay.
So उसके बाद हमने TV. See, 2 years के बाद बाकी सब लोग भी घर में ऐसे हो गए हमें भी TV देखना है. This is not fair. So 2 years के बाद we would switch on like Cocomelon for example YouTube पे. So she could see Cocomelon. So तो उसके rhymes उसने पहले सुने थे but now she can see them also. So that time we would give her some screen time. But anyways even doctors say the same thing that up to 2 years you should not give any screen time to a child. And after 2 years you should also still limit it to half an hour or 1 hour something like that. So ऐसे कुछ numbers होते हैं वो मुझे अभी याद नहीं है.
Okay.
But anyways after 2 years I saw that even if we are allowing her to watch TV, she is not really very interested.
Okay.
She watches for some very short duration and then she will walk around and she'll start playing.
कह रहे थे like 2-3 years तक, after 2 years वो still interested नहीं थी television वगैरह में. और तो अभी उसका स्क्रीन टाइम कितना है?
अभी भी ऐसे ही है. She is not very interested in the screen time. I mean, she likes to watch only if we are watching with her. So it becomes more like a bonding time for us. You know, so for example, if उसका कुछ animation movie है जो छोटे छोटे बच्चे देख सकते हैं, so we will watch together, and then I'll explain in between if required. You know, and then we'll watch it together. So it's more like, and she'll constantly keep observing my reactions. How am I reacting to it?
Nice.
So it becomes more like a bonding time for both of us. And we'll sit together. You know, she'll come in my lap, she'll sit in my lap, and then she'll watch. And you know, we'll hug each other like ऐसे पकड़ के बैठ जाएंगे. You know, just I'm doing this to the
Right.
pillow right now. So yeah, so that's how it is right now.
आई थिंक मतलब बहुत ही अच्छी इंसाइट मिली है मुझे कि लाइक 2 years तक अगर स्क्रीन टाइम नहीं है तो मतलब क्या डिफरेंस दिख सकता है.
बहुत बहुत ह्यूज. आई कैन इजीली टेल यू लाइक बिकॉज बहुत लोगों ने स्क्रीन टाइम दिया. सो आई से अबाउट माय ओन एक्सपीरियंसेस. सो प्लीज डोंट कंसिडर लाइक यू नो it's for everybody.
Your experiences only.
Yeah.
Right.
So for example, I observed that you know in my like society where we stay, जैसे कुछ और बच्चे भी हैं जो आद्या से you know few months younger है या few months older है. So उनके साथ we saw that you know एक बच्चा तो 10 months older than Aadya. Like Aadya is my daughter's name by the way. So वो बच्चा बिल्कुल बोलता ही नहीं था. So you know he'll just keep showing the things. कुछ भी खाना कुछ भी चाहिए तो करता रहेगा. He's just not using words at all because he would be just so engrossed in the TV and he stopped interacting with people.
Yeah.
And also because he is not able to explain what he wants to do, he would get very angry. You know, so rage वाला उस पर एक issue देखा. So then politely I told the parents that you should you know at least consult a doctor generally. And obviously this is something which is like a taboo as well. A lot of parents don't like to hear this. So I say that just you know don't think of it in such you know some other way, or you know that this is some sort of you know autism or anything like that. It's just that you should just you know check with the doctor once. You know if there's some issue or some other you know process you can follow that might help. So जैसे वो डॉक्टर के पास गया, डॉक्टर ने पहले तो स्क्रीन टाइम खत्म कर दिया. सो आई यू नो ऑब्जर्व लाइक एक बच्चा हमारे you know सोसाइटी में he was 10 months older than you know my daughter, and he could not speak. Basically it's not like he could not speak, but it's just that he didn't want to speak. So जब भी वो कुछ आएगा तो सब कुछ इशारे में बात करेगा. And then he will also get very angry and frustrated. So he was suffering some you know kind of rage issues. So when I saw that, I you know tried to tell the parents like so parents पहले तो बहुत upset होते हैं इन चीज़ों पे because they consider like a taboo and वो सीधा autism के बारे में पहुंच जाते हैं. You know they're just going to total extreme from you know a normal child to autistic child. That's it, nothing in between. So I told him like you know I think you should definitely just you know check out with doctor you know for just normal checkup and all, and see if there could be some kind of intervention possible. So जब वो डॉक्टर के पास गए तो डॉक्टर ने सबसे पहले तो स्क्रीन टाइम बिल्कुल जीरो कर दिया. मतलब कि जीरो स्क्रीन टाइम है, प्लीज डू नॉट गिव एनी स्क्रीन टाइम एट ऑल बिकॉज इट्स ऑलरेडी लाइक यू नो एक्सट्रीम हो गया. एंड देन दे वर आल्सो टॉकिंग अबाउट दिस यू नो एज अ डॉक्टर कि बहुत सारे बच्चों को वो देख रहे हैं ये इशू आ रहा है बिकॉज उनको स्क्रीन टाइम बहुत ज्यादा मिल रहा है अभी. सो डॉक्टर्स आल्सो से दैट यू नो आपको स्क्रीन टाइम कम कर लेना चाहिए. एंड देन उसको बताया कि आप यू नो देन दे टोल्ड देम सर्टेन एक्टिविटीज व्हिच पेरेंट्स शुड डू विद द चाइल्ड. यू नो जनरल एक्टिविटीज जो प्रैक्टिस करनी है उनको. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर बच्चा करता तो नहीं उसको बोलना कि नहीं एप्पल बोलो, एप्पल चाहिए तो एप्पल बोलो, और टेल मी फर्स्ट व्हाट डू यू वांट देन आई विल गिव इट टू यू ऐसा. So that forced the child to start speaking, and in a very you know short span of time, like in a month itself, the child was already talking pretty well. So जैसे screen time हटा बच्चा बिल्कुल normal हो गया. So you know screen time affects the language, the speaking capability or the language learning capability of the child. Then same way I have seen another child you know who's 6 months younger than Aadya, and उसके साथ भी उसका साथ issue ये नहीं कि वो बोलता नहीं, वो बोलता आराम से, बट इतना नहीं बोलता वो भी, उसके अंदर भी लैंग्वेज इश्यूज है ये वाले. बट उससे ज्यादा इश्यूज ये है कि अगर वो टीवी देख रहा है तो टीवी में इतना एंग्रॉस हो जाएगा कि अगर उसके आसपास लोग आके उसको कुछ बाय करे, हाई करे, कुछ भी करे, he will not like to come out, say, respond to the person. And अगर उस टाइम पे टीवी बंद करो या उसको फोर्सफुली करो कि अरे बात करो, थोड़ा हाई हेलो करो, तो बच्चा बहुत you know एंग्री होता है. So I see these kind of issues in lot of kids happening if they are given a lot of screen time. So the learning also slows down I think, because I've seen other parents also जिन्हें screen time ज़्यादा नहीं दिया है, नहीं देते अभी भी, और उनके बच्चे ज़्यादा खेलते हैं. So they learn a lot of new things.
Correct.
So when you interact with people, you know your age group especially, you learn a lot of things from each other. So that gives them the time, that the chance to do that.
Fully agreed. I think it also helps in developing better social emotional health for a kid.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it impacts in a positive way if the screen time is not there, and good social emotional health when they are adults or teenagers to express themselves and have a good conversation with parents, friends, and other relatives.
True. Because now they can link with people, connect with people rather than the a screen character. So that's what happens when you watch too much TV. You start correlating yourself with that character who is in the TV, who is not real, as opposed to the real people. And I think that's the same thing which happens with people on the social media as well these days.
Got it. And do you refer to like any books or have you read any parenting books or articles or anything to guide your parenting or when you are curious about certain things about Aadya? So,
frankly speaking, I've not read any books or anything like that.
क्या आप कोई बुक्स रेफर करते हैं पेरेंटिंग के लिए या आर्टिकल्स पढ़ते हैं या आपने कोई और सपोर्ट अपने लिए बनाया है?
नहीं, मैं ऐसी कोई बुक्स तो फिलहाल नहीं पढ़ती हूँ. आई थिंक आई हैव वेरी लेस टाइम to read such things. But yeah, my sister and brother-in-law are like into the education field. So sometimes I ask them certain questions. उसके अलावा I think I go more on the doctor's advice about certain things. So medically, I follow a lot of doctors' advices about different things, like first aid, especially. क्या करना चाहिए different conditions में बच्चे के साथ. So वो I diligently follow. And then I'm in certain groups, which is again, owned by some doctors and nurses. So I follow those. Apart from that, I follow my gut, you can say. Okay. I allow the child to, do some things, experiment. So I try certain things, and if it works out, I follow it. If the child doesn't, cooperate with that, or I can see that, my daughter is not liking it, I kind of change my method. So I think that's what I do.
आपको ऐसा लगता है कि कोई कुछ सपोर्ट सिस्टम्स ऑलरेडी होने चाहिए हमारे एनवायरनमेंट में जिससे कि पेरेंटिंग जो कि इतनी इजी थिंग नहीं है पर वो इजी बन पाए हमारे पेरेंट्स के लिए आपके एक्सपीरियंस में?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, जितना आपको सपोर्ट मिल सकता है एज अ पेरेंट, it's always good. So सपोर्ट स्ट्रक्चर, आपका एक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर उस टाइप का तो डेफिनेटली होना चाहिए. अगर अवेलेबल हो सकता है जिन लोगों को. क्या चीजें वो हो सकती है जो मदद कर सकती है पेरेंट्स को? आई थिंक बहुत पेरेंट्स भी जैसे कुछ पर्टिकुलर चीज़ों की नॉलेज नहीं होती है. सो मे बी सम काइंड ऑफ कम्युनिटी व्हिच कैन हेल्प विद दैट. Advice from some experienced people, educators perhaps, who are from that area, I would say. I think that's one from the top of my mind, what I can think of now.
And what do you think about like आजकल पेरेंट कोचेस का भी बहुत इंस्टाग्राम पे मैं देखता हूँ कि बहुत सारे पेरेंट कोचेस अवेलेबल है और पेरेंट परस्यू भी करते हैं. आपका क्या टेक रहेगा एज अ पेरेंट? क्या पेरेंट कोचेस कुड बी अ सक्सेसफुल थिंग फॉर पेरेंट?
I don't know. I mean, I've not tried it myself. So perhaps जिसने ट्राई किया वो उनसे पूछ सकते हैं कि उनका एक्सपीरियंस कैसा रहा रियल में. बट मैं किसी को नहीं जानती मेरे आसपास जिनने ट्राई करा हो. सो आई डोंट नो.
ओके. एंड पर आपने शुरू में जैसे बात की थी वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस की, वो क्या किस तरीके का सपोर्ट उस चीज के लिए इजी कर सकता है पेरेंट को, स्पेशली जो पेरेंट्स वर्किंग है या एंटरप्रेन्योर है?
So I think work-life balance, definitely मैंने कभी word use ही नहीं करा because I think that's a very debatable term and very interchangeable. So I think I believe more in like you should enjoy the work and life, different things in life. Basically, it's life. Okay, work is also part of life, and you have a lot of different parts of life, and you should keep enjoying every part of life. So I think balance का देने जरूरत नहीं पड़ता है. Okay. Like just to answer your question about the infrastructure, definitely I built an infrastructure around me. So for example, I got a nanny for my child. तो वो जब हमारी मीटिंग्स है, अगर लेट्स से मैं मेरे हस्बैंड दोनों की मीटिंग्स है एक ही टाइम पे, तो वो थोड़ा सा उसको देख सकती है. सो वी कैन अवॉइड स्क्रीन टाइम. वो थोड़ा साइकिल पे बिठा के बाहर घुमा सकती है या कभी कभी थोड़ा घर के काम कर सकती है. तो दैट गिव्स मी टाइम टू फोकस ऑन माई चाइल्ड rather than focusing on the lot of things. So as a woman, I would say all the women should first, I mean, this is something what happened with me. I first accepted that I'm not a superwoman. बहुत लोग होंगे superwoman, okay, but I am not. So I accepted that first. And जब मैंने वो accept कर लिया, then infrastructure build करना थोड़ा आसान हो गया मेरे लिए, because I realized कि I cannot do everything. सो आई हैव टू प्रायोरिटाइज कि क्या है जो मैं खुद करना चाहती हूँ मेरे बच्चे के लिए, और क्या है जो मैं डेलीगेट कर सकती हूँ. So then there were certain things which I felt I can delegate. I don't mind, that I have to do it myself or oversee it. So for example, like मेरे बच्चे के लिए खाना बनाना. So मैं खुद खाना बनाती थी पहले, तो मुझे पता है इसको क्या पसंद है. Then I taught that to my nanny कि this is how you should make her food exactly. So that work got delegated to her. So that ensured कि मेरे बच्चे का खाना बना हुआ है, टाइम पर है, पौष्टिक भोजन है, और मुझे वो काम नहीं करना पड़ रहा, और उस वो जो टाइम है मेरे पास जिसमें वो खाना बनाती हूँ उसकी जगह मैं उसके साथ वो स्पेंड कर सकती हूँ. सो देयर आर सम स्मॉल एग्जांपल्स. देन आपके पेरेंट्स, वो भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट होते हैं आपके उस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का. सो मेरे पेरेंट्स, मेरे इन लॉज, ये सब इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट बन गए उस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का, क्योंकि बच्चा जब इन सबसे इंटरेक्ट करता है अपने ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स से, दोनों साइड के, बहुत सी नई नई चीजें उनसे सीखता है. सो वो जो टीचिंग, वो जो बॉन्ड उन लोगों के साथ है, वो आप कभी भी रिप्लेस नहीं कर सकते हो. सो दैट वाज अगेन सेकंड थिंग व्हिच आई बिल्ट अराउंड मी. Then third thing is I made sure that my team understands that I have to be little flexible. So we could organize our work in such a way that जब मेरी बेटी सो रही है उस टाइम पर हम लोग वो burst ऑफ जो आता है ना मेरे को. सो वो थर्ड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर था मेरा. एंड फोर्थ यू कैन से डे केयर्स, और ये सही जगह होती हैं. तो अगर नैनी नहीं है तो देन डे केयर इज अनदर ऑप्शन एज एन ऑल्टरनेटिव फॉर लॉट ऑफ पेरेंट्स. सो इवन दोज वर गुड ऑप्शंस फॉर people. Like I've seen like people, मेरे जो आसपास के लोग थे, some people went for day care because उनको कोई नैनी नहीं मिल पाई. Then मेरे साथ एक और भी अच्छा ऑप्शन था कि I could work from home, or few hours I could work from home, or few hours if required I can take my nanny and my child to my office. And that's how I used to do actually. For a lot of meetings, I would take them with me. So that ways I could also, be there, more involved. बट बहुत लोग ऐसे ऑप्शन नहीं होते, स्पेशली इफ दे आर वर्किंग इन अ कंपनी 9 to 6. अगर कंपनी में क्रैश नहीं है तो इट्स डिफिकल्ट. सो इन दैट केस दे वुड गो फॉर डे केयर, वेयर जहाँ पे कैमरास होते हैं, देख सकते हैं वो लोग. सो आई थिंक all the systems have its own pros and cons, and it's all good, I think.
I personally, I also personally believe that knowledge, skills, and mindsets are an important aspect of any parent life. And if one has all three of them at right place, one can provide a beautiful life to their children. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think mindset is really important. And obviously knowledge also empowers you, and skill is something which you can always gain in life with the knowledge only. So yeah, you're right, like combination of these three is essential.
But what do you think, like as a parent, what and as a parent in your own experience, what knowledge and skills are necessary to connect well with the kid, to understand kid and raise a kid?
I personally don't know actually. I never thought about it in this way. I think I'm right now doing it more in a intuitive style.
Okay.
Rather than, but yeah, I think sometimes certain things, like, I also see sometimes some Instagram, videos perhaps, or sometimes from the doctors' videos. So that also helps me to be cautious about certain things, focus on certain behavioral patterns. So I think that is what I have been using till now. But yeah, I'm not sure
Okay.
what else to answer.
But hypothetically speaking, if you get a chance to join any institute or a center where they work on building, parent skill building, would you like to join that?
Perhaps, maybe, I'm not sure though.
What is the no?
I don't know. No, I never thought about that, or never thought about it that way.
Okay.
I think it would require time, mostly, which, and I think a lot of parents don't believe that they require this kind of training. So
Do you believe?
I don't know. I mean, I'm working more intuitively right
Okay.
now. So, and also some things on experience or experience of our grown-ups and people around me. But yeah, I have good guidance because from some educators. So yeah, I think if we can formalize it, perhaps with some good educators, then maybe that is something
Correct.
which people might like.
Have you ever got any doubts like being a good parent? Are you a good parent? ever get that question for yourself?
No, I generally push these kind of thoughts away.
Okay, nice.
uh, because again, see, I think every parent is a good parent, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody consciously does something to harm their child unless they're really suffering from some mental issues or
Mm-hmm.
something, which again is something where they don't consciously do, harm to the child. It's like they are suffering,
Mm-hmm.
from a issue, uh, because of which they would do maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But like for example in PTSD, some in PTSD there is a symptom where a mother would be very much in the extreme where they might hurt the child.
Mm-hmm.
But that is because they're suffering from PTSD, and there is a solution for that. So if
Mm-hmm.
you can go to get the right treatment on time, that helps.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that no parent is a bad parent because they do whatever is
Mm-hmm.
possible for them to do
Mm-hmm.
best for their child.
Correct. And like if there might be some behaviors of your daughter out there that you are confused about, like why it is happening with her or why she is behaving the way she is, then what do you do in that case? Does your intuition helps you during that time too, or would you do you connect with some other support system around you for
I
that?
generally ask the doctors. So whenever I go for the checkups, they're regular checkups for the child. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever I go there, I would ask the pediatrician, and generally they would give better advice.
Okay, got it. And does it help you?
Yes, that helps, or at least that gives a calming effect
Mm-hmm.
that nothing is wrong. So I
Okay.
think that's the foremost thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as I mentioned, that I sometimes could talk to some educator whom I trust. But I think for my case, I personally trust the doctors more,
Okay.
and I generally talk to them till
Mm-hmm.
now. But yeah, that's it.
And is it because you are from the medical background and you are working?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, I will not discount the role of educators also in this case.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also important that we should trust them. So, see, with the
Yes.
doctors also, I don't ask advice from any doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I ask the advice only from the doctors I really trust,
Okay.
where I feel their opinion is very much unbiased
Mm-hmm.
and not, so yeah, I mean that's important. The trust
True.
factor.
Are you a part of any like parent community?
Yeah, I am part of some communities where they talk about the children, but it's more on the healthcare side, I would say, which is run by doctors. But yeah, I'm also part of one more community, which is you know on the games and different aspects of the children, development. So that's also something really good where I keep getting some announcements and some good advice.
Nice. Which is that community?
So it is a Kidankam,
Okay.
where they talk about different toys and different aspects. I'm part of that, and then I'm part of a lot of different. The pediatrician where I take my daughter, she also has her own community group,
Okay.
the medical group.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of mothers are there. So many times other mothers will ask questions about certain things, and doctor would answer it. So sometimes it's not necessary that I have to ask a question because somebody might have asked and I would have read the answer,
Yeah.
so I know. I think maybe that's also part of it, which I,
True. True.
subconsciously might have
Correct.
incorporated,
Yes.
or without realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
That's nice. And so my next question for you is: would you call yourself as an aware parent?
I'm not sure. I
Okay.
can't, say that also. I mean, I don't know really.
Okay, it's fine. It's fair. Okay. So, lastly, I also want to know about your work. So, you're working, you are having your own organization called Yantram Medtech.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you doing right now, and how is it related to childcare?
So basically, we are working on a product which is a wearable device, and it's used for temperature monitoring. So it monitors all the types of temperature fluctuations in the child, and it is more useful when the baby is born, because they're very prone to hypothermia where the body temperature drops.
Okay.
So a normal body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius, and in hypothermia the temperature becomes 36.5. So it's a very small drop, but that drop is very fatal for a child. It can affect the brain development, it can affect their growth. So a lot of parameters, creep into that. And then when the child grows a bit more, beyond 3 months, when the hypothermia is no longer a very, fatal thing, the child develops normally a lot of fevers, which could be due to vaccination, due to season change. And during that time, I personally, suffered because you would be very, panicky, and you would be awake whole night.
Yeah.
And the temperature of the child would increase very drastically. It will not be like, so, one moment in a span of 10-15 minutes, the temperature would increase pretty much, like, from 100 degrees to 104. And that has happened with my daughter, like, where I just like fell asleep, but she was in my lap, and suddenly I realized I woke up because she became very hot.
Okay.
And I realized that her temperature was 104. So for me, I got saved because I just woke up on time. Then there were stories where some of my friends, they also suffered in a very different style. So for example, my friend went to the office, and she left the child with her grandparents.
Yeah.
And the child got very high fever. So she spoke to them, and in half an hour or something, the fever of the child rose drastically to 104. So when the grandparents checked, it was like something like 100. So they thought like, okay, it's fine. It's 100. It's not very scary situation, and that's correct. But in half an hour, while they were just making some food or something, uh, you know, uh, in just that half an hour span time, it became 104 or 105, something like that.
Okay.
And the child started getting seizures. So when the child got seizures, they got really scared, and they rushed to the emergency, and they called her up. So she also panicked, and she was then since that day, whenever the child gets fever, it becomes very difficult for her to leave the child and go to office. But a lot of women, they cannot just take unplanned leaves very suddenly.
Yes.
And a lot of them, and believe me, the small child gets sick a lot. Any season change, it's like 4 to 6 times in a year easily, and that's like just season change I'm talking about. But there are so many flu seasons, mosquito seasons. Child goes to a daycare, meets some other person, or your nanny comes, she has a cold or cough, the child gets it from them. So these are other things which, if you count, it becomes like 7 to 10 times in a whole year easily.
Correct.
And you cannot take that many times leaves. And when a child gets sick, it's easily up to 7 days. The child becomes very clingy. It's it's all, the child is always with the mother, and the mother is not able to sleep because see, as a human, we can go on for 1 day, 2 day, but then if you ask somebody to be awake continuously, for more than 2-3 days, it's difficult. Then
Right.
we get
Right.
cranky. We also get irritated. It affects our health, our career, everything.
Correct.
So I realize that there is a something where if we have something which can automatically monitor the temperature and wake the parent up, so then they can also sleep for some hours at least, without panicking. That what if the temperature becomes too high?
Correct.
And beyond a certain age, and once you have been through the cycle few times, you really want to sleep for some time at least, so that you know that
True.
you need that energy to be
Correct.
able to handle the child. And then, like in my friend's case, where she is in office, she can still keep monitoring the child, and she can get an alarm on her phone when the temperature becomes so high before the seizure comes. So that is the main target, that this device should be able to do. And apart from that, we also collect a lot of insights about when the temperature started, how the temperature rose, what kind of medication was given, what is the effect of medication on that temperature fluctuation, which can help the doctor to diagnose quickly. Yeah, so basically that's the issues. And बहुत बार पेरेंट्स एंटीबायोटिक्स देते हैं अपने बच्चों को अगर कुछ थोड़ा सा बुखार है, क्योंकि लास्ट टाइम एंटीबायोटिक दिया गया उससे ठीक हो गया, तो सोचते कि हर बार एंटीबायोटिक देंगे तो जल्दी ठीक हो जाएगा बच्चा। एंड ऐसा भी करते कई बार पेरेंट्स की, उनको लगता है कि यार अरे हमें ऑफिस जाना है, अभी ऑफिस हम छुट्टी नहीं ले सकते हैं, तो इसकी तबीयत और खराब हो जाएगी, तो इससे पहले और खराब हो वो डे 1 पे ही एंटीबायोटिक देते हैं, जबकि एंटीबायोटिक हमेशा डे 3 पे देना चाहिए। एंड बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स पैरासीटामोल का बहुत मिसयूज करते हैं। सी एनी आप कुछ भी दवाई देंगे सबका साइड इफेक्ट्स तो होते ही है, किसी का कम होता है किसी का ज़्यादा। सो जब आप ऐसे मिसयूज करते हैं ना ड्रग्स को अपने बच्चे के ऊपर, और फिर आप उसकी उसकी वजह से उसके जो साइड इफेक्ट्स आते हैं उससे तबीयत और खराब होती है बच्चे की। तो जब आप डॉक्टर्स के पास लेके जाते हो तो डॉक्टर के पास ज़्यादा ऑप्शन नहीं बचता, उनको भी लगता है कि अरे अभी दवाइयाँ दे दी तो बच्चा अब रेसिस्टेंट हो गया, तो अभी हम क्या करें, तो देन दे आर फोर्स टू गिव यू अ हायर डोज, हायर एंटीबायोटिक्स, जो और अफेक्ट करता है, तो उसमें रिकवरी ये सब स्लो हो जाती है बच्चे की। तो that is what we want to do, bring that kind of awareness in the parents and help the doctors out. So that's why we chose this area.
Got it. So thank you for doing such a nice work and best of luck with your device.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
hope
so
you
much.
get loads of revenue soon.
Yeah, thank you.
with your product. Okay, so before we end, I just have like one last question in mind. Do you have any do's and don'ts for the parents uh, in their parenting journey according to your experience?
I think I've already mentioned one, which is a screen time. And I think the second thing is, as a do, just try to connect with your child. Automatically, the child will teach you what works, what doesn't. And definitely, I mean, take some guidance or some help from some good educators whom you trust. I mean, as I mentioned multiple times, I think in this whole, talk also, that my sister and her husband is from this kind of background of the education side. So I would definitely, multiple times I've taken advice from them as well. Like, this is what I'm thinking. What do you say? Where they've also given some inputs to us. So I think that also helps. So if people can, connect with the child, let the child be free, and probably, get some more, guidance or ideas on how to avoid the screen time.
Yeah.
At the same time building a bond with the child. I think that's really great.
How do you build your bond with Aadya?
By doing different activities. So we do a lot of stories. So she likes stories and I like telling her stories. So we read out stories to each other, or sometimes we even make our own stories. So we use our environment as a cue and we will create our own stories and we will play some games with those stories around. So I think that's the best way we build a bond. And we do a lot of role play games. Like she recently became very fond of Ramayan, so even involved all the kids nearby in our society. So everybody became a different character, and she had a big toy of a bird basically. So that bird became a Jatayu. And so we would play with these toys with these people, like kids will become different characters, so everybody will say some their own dialogue in their own way. So it's not like a skit we are preparing or we're not teaching them what to say. It's just that they're all having fun and they're all saying certain things and just enjoying the whole story.
Correct.
So that is
the stories is one of the ways you can.
Yeah, one of the ways. And I think the second is sometimes we'll watch some some short movie or some short thing together on a TV. So again, that's a way for us to make our bond.
Thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
that was like last of my question for you. So once again, like, thank you for answering like all my questions, queries. It was very insightful conversation for me in terms of I have learned few more things.
Thank you so much.
Number two, it is always nice to see like a parent who is so invested and aware of their own actions. So I think you are doing really great as per my own experience. And best of luck with your venture, with your future parenting.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I hope everything turns out good for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it was great here.